So this is the video for my director study. My director study I did on Antoine Fuqua. Antoine Fuqua is an African American director who has done famous films such as The Equalizer, Training Day, and his newest film was The Guilty. The Guilty is actually the film that I watched. I had never seen it before. It just came out October 1st of this year. Um, it was a really interesting film, and before I get into my analysis of the director's style within the film, some brief information about the director. Antoine Fuqua usually picks politically driven or he makes films that are usually politically driven or have some type of controversial element to it. The main characters are usually hide some part of their past. There's usually like a dark mysteriousness about the main character. There's usually a conflicted scene. He uses hard film settings, neutral or dark tones. And one of the hallmarks of his film is he usually features like an upside down shot. There's usually a shot within his films that goes upside down. I would suspect to simulate kind of like the topsy-turviness that's happening within the plot. So on to The Guilty. An interesting note two interesting notes about the film. I read that he directed the entire film from his van because, there was someone on the set, I think, had COVID, or there was some kind of COVID related issue. So he directed the entire film from his van with a monitor rather than actually being on the soundstage. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And the original script for The Guilty did not have a backstory for the main character. Nope, scratch that. That was for The Equalizer, which I did not do. So we'll skip that. Okay, so on to The Guilty. So the film was definitely keeping within Antoine's kind of dark colorization that he uses in his film. Even the opening credits, it was a bold film. Like bold is, like Warner Brother Film or Paramount Films. This was bold film, and even that set the tone for like a dramatic, kind of dark movie. The background was black. The words were like in bold typeface. They kind of came in one at a time, and the letters, the letters BOLD was actually like it was white, but it was like a cascading kind of color. So just even that opening shot that showed the film credits kind of set the stage for his trademark signature cinemagraphically for his films. So the opening was dramatic. Again, as the credits were rolling, it was a LA landscape. It was dark. There was fires kind of going. There's 911 music in the background. 911 calls kind of playing in the background as the, dramatic intro music was going. He used a lot of close-up shots of the main character who was, so the plot, the main character is a demoted policeman who has been demoted to a 911 operator. So, he's facing court charges. He has like a lot of just kind of things going on in his life. So, he's been kicked off the force. He's been demoted to a 911 dispatcher awaiting, the rest of his, life to kind of unfold. Um, and Antoine Fuqua also, his main characters usually have like a hidden kind of mysterious past that that doesn't come out kind of until the end of the film, but sort of, that past leads them or kind of helps guide their action throughout the film. And so there were a lot of close up. I noticed that he used a lot of shallow depth of field. Um, Again, I suspect to kind of give you that close up focus image on the main character who's in some type of crisis or dealing with some kind of drama, or having something kind of going on with themselves. Um, so it opened in the bathroom scene, and even the bathroom scene, it was stark, cold, cool colors that invoked like a starkness, like a nothing warm or kind of relaxing, where you can kind of kind of sit back and kind of cozy into the film, like you were on edge. Like you could tell it was like an edginess from the very beginning. The main character, he was angry, he was kind of an antagonist. He was very snippy to like the world around him, and putting him in the role of a 911 operator just kind of didn't help. He was really snarky. He was really short with the people that called, until he got this one call from a woman who appeared to have been abducted. And so he's this one call is kind of driving in already anxious and anxiety from his life circumstances that are happening around him. This call kind of puts all of that in a heightened state because this woman, appeared, she's crying and she's calling 911 and she says she's abducted. And so now he's like going into overdrive to kind of find this woman. We got to help her, we got to save her. But he's breaking all the rules in the process. He has, he has a pending court case. He's separated from his wife. He has a child himself. He's missing his child. His world is out of control. He doesn't follow the rules, obviously, because he's gotten kicked off of the force. But even as a 911 operator, he's combative with his colleagues. He's dismissive of his supervisors, and he's kind of out of control, not following the rules, doing his own thing, even as a 911 operator. And it was really interesting that the whole kind of set of the movie is the 911 call center. There were a couple of scenes outside of the main setting of the 911 office, but they were kind of set in like a dreamy kind of like they were happening in real time, but it wasn't like in clear focus. It was kind of like that grainy, kind of dreamy, alternate set that was happening at the same time, but clearly it wasn't like the main scene, the main stage for the movie. The main stage for the movie was the 911 call center, and even the shot that they showed the most was kind of like an overhead shot of him at the desk with the expanse of the 911 center behind him. Things were gray. There was gray tones. There was, kind of like a muted color pattern. Nothing warm. Nothing. No cool. No warm tones. No beiges. It was just grays and dullness and all the colors that you would expect to see in an Antoine Fuqua film that's dark and intense and kind of monochromatic. And so, given his directing style, the hallmarks of his films, I could totally understand why he chose the character that he did. And at the end of the film, it was a great twist, a great plot twist. The woman was not the victim at all. She was actually she was actually the suspect. She was a mental patient who didn't want to either go back to the psychiatric facility that she was at, or she didn't want to stay there. It was a little bit, I couldn't follow as much towards the end, because there was a lot of things kind of happening. But what I do recall is the main character. He had to have been the character that he was in order to help ultimately save the woman whom he thought was a victim in the first place. She was actually the suspect. She had stabbed her child. Her other child was left home alone. The gentleman that she was with, who the cops suspected was the assailant, he was actually the good guy, and she was the bad person. So he had to reveal his past, which ultimately was the reason why he had been kicked off the force, was awaiting court, and was a 911 operator. He killed a 19-year-old boy. He killed a boy on the force. He was going to court. You know, him and his partner had kind of cooked up their story, and before the end of this case, he was still kind of expecting things to kind of go the way he wanted them to go. But the culmination of the film, the woman was going to kill herself, and he revealed that he had killed someone. And it was only at that point that he was truly able to relate to her, and I feel like kind of bring her back from the brink of craziness, where she could see that he was genuine and that there really was more of a connection than just her calling him. That kind of brought him back, and he kept using the children. He kept using the children as like the connecting fiber between him and her, because he had a daughter that he wasn't seeing. He had been separated from his wife, so he had a child that he hadn't been able to see. And then these children left home alone, seemingly because their mother had been abducted, and the ex was the assailant. Turned out not to be the case, but it still helped kind of bind them and bring her back from ultimately killing herself. So it was a really good film. It was only an hour and 30 minutes, but it was really, really good. And I think in him admitting the truth about who he was and what he had done, helped free her, and it helped free him as well. And so the movie ends the same way it started, in the bathroom, the starkness of the porcelain sinks, the toilets, he throws up. It's just been a crazy shift, and he's actually able to kind of unload, kind of decompress, and he calls his partner and told his partner to tell the truth. His partner, kind of brings up the fact, like, man, if we don't keep our story straight, like, you're going to go away forever. You're going to go away for a long time. You're not going to see your daughter. And he tells him to promise me that you'll tell the truth. So even in her crisis, I think it helped him kind of see who he was and admit his wrongs. And ultimately, he went to court, he pled guilty, and the movie kind of ends that way. So it was a great film, and it was really cool to look at a movie, not just from a viewer perspective, but from the perspective of the director and what his vision was for the movie. So it was great, and I thank you for this assignment. It was fun, and see you on my next one. Bye-bye.